All right. Well, hi everybody. Welcome. My name is Lori Moyer. I am a registered dietitian. I work at Crystal River Nursing and Rehab, also at Waupaca Healthcare Center, but I've been a dietitian for about 18 years now. I've worked in public health, I've worked in school food service, I've worked in nursing home food service, and now I do kind of the clinical side of things at Crystal River and Waupaca. And I'm here today. Jen asked me to come talk to you about eating with diabetes. I like to keep it really loose and inflexible. You'll see that I don't have any fancy PowerPoints or slide presentations. My apologies if you like that. That just seemed way more formal than I wanted to go. So we're going to kind of keep it loose, open to questions. I have some handouts, and we're going to be like preschoolers today and have a little fun, little interactive game, if you want to call it that. So I'm not going to go around in the room and ask if anyone has diabetes. I don't know if that's a common thread or not, but for people that don't know what diabetes is or have never really been told, I have the very first handout here talks about what is diabetes. It means you have too much sugar in your blood. High blood sugar problems start when your body no longer makes enough of a chemical or hormone called insulin. The handout looks like this. Your body changes much of the food you eat into a type of sugar called glucose. The sugar travels in your blood to all the cells in your body. Your body cells need that sugar to give you energy. So sugar isn't a bad thing, but when you have diabetes, your body, there's something going wrong inside of you that doesn't allow you to utilize that sugar the way your body should. Insulin helps sugar move from your blood into your cells. Without insulin, your cells can't get the sugar they need. So you'll see on the next paragraph down, insulin helps keep your blood sugar level normal, not too high, not too low. When you don't have enough insulin to lower high blood sugar levels, you have diabetes. No one knows what causes diabetes. There's a lot of things going around on the internet these days that say, what do you get when you eat 6 pieces of cake and a bag of candy and a donut and you get diabetes? No. You can't get diabetes from eating too much sugar. There are certain things that eating too much sugar can lead to. If someone eats too much sugar or fatty food, it has nothing to do with the sugar necessarily, but eats too many calories, gains weight, their body starts to lose some, or the insulin in their body may lose some of its effect, and that can lead to diabetes. But by simply eating a lot of sugar, you're not going to contract diabetes. Diabetes can and must be treated, and there are a great many people in the United States who have no idea that they have diabetes. High blood sugar levels can cause serious health problems. And what happens when your blood sugar is high, your blood is literally getting thick in your veins. And so you'll hear about a lot of people developing something called neuropathy, which is nerve damage. And what happens is your blood just can't quite chug through your body to all the places it needs to go. And so you'll start to lose circulation in fingers, in toes, in feet. That's where amputations come from. A lot of people lose eyesight because the blood flow just can't get to the eye sockets, just can't supply the eyes with the blood it needs, and that's why a lot of people lose eyesight. A simple test can tell you if you have diabetes. Talk to your doctor or health clinic for more information. The next handout I gave everybody is a theater. Seems kind of silly, but a lot of people don't quite understand what's happening in your body when you have diabetes. So I thought of a simple theater. Mine's red, looks like red blood cells. But you think about the seats in the theater as being the cells in your body. The ushers who would usher you to your seat, that's your insulin. So when you have diabetes, you have either not enough ushers to get the sugar that you've eaten into those cells or those seats, or you just have a couple really sluggish ushers who can't quite get you there. So that's just a rough idea of thinking about how diabetes, what's happening when you have diabetes is you don't have enough ushers to get the sugar into the seat. All right, so a lot of people have questions if they've been diagnosed with diabetes, what can I eat? And so I've handed everybody a handout that looks, mine's colorful, my apologies. Do you want some of these? So a good meal plan includes a balance of carbs or carbohydrate, and that's the buzzword that people hear about when they're diagnosed with diabetes is carbs. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. counting carbs or knowing what a carb is or how to determine carb servings in something. Carbs, protein, and good fats. Those are the things we need to have in our bodies. Carbs are the body's main source of energy. So about half of the calories you eat every day should come from carbs. There's a big push out there. It cycles around every 20 years or so. The high protein diet, the low carb diet. Now you're hearing about gluten-free diets. They all have their place for certain people. I am not a big proponent of the low carb diet. I think we need carbs. I think it's just a matter of picking the right ones that aren't going to make us crave more uncontrollably, but also get the right amount that your energy levels aren't sinking. Blood sugar goes up when you eat. Your blood sugar will be easier to control if you eat a balance of foods from the different food groups in the right amounts. I didn't write this down, but I'll tell you a little something about the carbs, the protein, and the fats. If you've ever gone and felt like you're hungry and you have just a handful of pretzels, you notice how you're just starving 20 minutes later. It just doesn't really tide you over. But if you have perhaps crackers with a little bit of cheese, not only do you feel a little more satisfied, but it keeps you fuller longer. Or it should, unless you're just a habitual eater and you just, oh, it's 11, I better eat, whether you're hungry or not. That's me. But carbohydrate, straight carbohydrate, which would be things that are based, from flour, pretzels, bread, cereals, cakes, cookies, muffins are kind of the bad carbs, but even potatoes, corn, pasta. Carbohydrate is digested within about an hour. So if you have something that's just carbohydrate, like a handful of chips or a handful of pretzels, you're probably going to be hungry really shortly afterward. And that's why a lot of people have what they call a sugar addiction or carb addiction, or they just crave carbs all the time because you're just creating this blood sugar wave where I just need more carbs, need more carbs. So if you put some protein into your meal, and protein could come from cheese, it could come from meat, it could come from peanut butter, eggs. Protein takes about 2 hours to digest. So if every meal that you have incorporates a little bit of carbs to supply your body with energy, a little, don't worry, we're going to have some fun with that in a minute. A little bit of protein, now you've made that meal take a little bit longer. Now it's taking about 2 hours to digest, so you're not feeling hungry within 20 minutes. The last component is the fat. Now, there are healthy fats, olive oils, canola oil to some extent, some of the healthy fats in almonds, in cheeses. Fat takes about 4 hours to digest. So if you have a meal that has some carbohydrate, a little bit of protein, and a little bit of healthy fat in it, now you've made that meal, hopefully, or let your body take 4 hours to digest that meal. Also, when you have something with carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and you've got that 4-hour window, it's going to smooth out your blood sugar. So your blood sugar isn't going to spike the way it would if you had a piece of cake. It's going to slow things out a little bit, and you're going to get a little bit more gradual rise to your blood sugar. So your meals should consist of carbohydrate, protein, and fat. I won't read this verbatim. That would bore you to death, but just here's a sample meal plan on this handout, and it talks about the different food groups. If anybody's learned about carb counting or meal planning, you've probably learned about food groups. So now I have a little activity in front of you. Know your carbs. So who's heard the word carbs? Everybody's heard the buzzword carbs. Carb is just a basic term for carbohydrate. There are all kinds of foods that have carbohydrate. Used to be, my father had type 1 diabetes. He injected himself with insulin in the morning and hoped for the best throughout the day. Not only that, that was back when we had 4 food groups. Anybody remember that? Just the good old 4 food groups. And we were kind of misled to think that carbs were cake, ice cream, cookies, donuts, bread maybe, but fruit's okay, but really there's carbohydrate in all kinds of things. They affect our bodies differently, but there's carbohydrate in grapes just like there's carbohydrate in a piece of bread, there's carbohydrate in milk, there's carbohydrate in all kinds of things. So when we talk about carbs, we're talking about sugar in food, and it comes in various forms. You've heard the term a carb. I get 5 carbs at dinner today, or 3 carbs at breakfast. And a carb is considered something that has 15 grams of carbohydrate in it. So has everybody heard of carbs or learned about carbs? Yes, for the most part. Well, hopefully you've learned a little bit or heard a little bit, because we're going to take a little time. We're going to go through this handout, and if everybody wants to just go through and circle the foods they think are just a carb serving, having 15 grams of carbohydrate in them. Doesn't make for very exciting television, but I'll give everybody a few minutes. I have some pens and pencils around. If everybody wants to go through and just circle those things that they think, oh, right here on this, the next handout in your pack there. Circle or X the ones that you think are just 15 grams. You're welcome.
15.
All right, should we go through and we'll talk about which ones are considered a carb serving, but we'll talk about the carbs in each one of them. All right, so we have 16 different foods listed here, little servings. Tablespoon of sugar. Any guess on whether that's a single carb or not? Who wants to take a chance?
I think it is.
It is. It is exactly 15 grams of carbohydrate. So if you have a tablespoon of sugar on something, say you have a bowl of cereal and you want to throw a tablespoon of sugar on it, depending on how much cereal you've had, right there might be 2 or 3 carbs, if not more. Carb servings, that is. Half a bagel.
I think it is.
It's actually 30 grams of carbohydrate. So just a half a bagel would be what you'd call 2 carbs in your carb counting or your meal planning. And most of today's bagels, unfortunately, if you go to the bakery at Triggs and you look at the Pick and Save or Cops or whatever, and you look at those homemade bakery bagels, they're huge. They're about 4 servings. So if you think, I'm going to get a... Well, depending, I mean, say your breakfast, you're supposed to have 4 carb servings, or 5 carbs. A half a bagel would be 2 carbs. Maybe a glass of milk is going to give you 3. Throw some peanut butter on it. You've got 4. It's not much. Then maybe you have an egg. So you don't get the egg won't provide any carb. But I mean, and I'm not saying that maybe you do have a full bagel, but just know that there's 4 carb servings there. Or if you think to yourself, I'm going to have a bagel breakfast sandwich. That sounds healthy. I'm going to use that cheddar jalapeno bagel at Big Apple Bagels. Know that that's not as great as you think, or maybe have half of that. All right, a small apple is considered just a single carb, 15 grams of carbohydrate. A half a cup of cooked beans, and they mean baked beans or lima beans, the starchy beans, not green beans. But a half of cup of cooked beans is 15 grams of carbohydrate. 8 ounces of fat-free milk is actually just a little bit less. It's 12 grams of carbohydrate. And all milk, skim 2%, skim 1%, 2%, or whole, they all have roughly 12 grams of carbohydrate. The only difference is the fat. You're going to get more fat, and more calories as you go up. Also, don't be misled if you ever see the red container of milk, the whole milk. They call it vitamin D milk. All milk has vitamin D in it. It's just a way to kind of push.
It's the same. It's all vitamin D is equal in all the milk.
Actually, the lower fat content, the slightly higher vitamin D content you get in your milk, because the fat displaces it. So you're getting just as much vitamin D out of a glass of skim as you are out of a glass of whole. The only thing you're getting out of the whole is fat and calories. The only people on earth who really truly need whole milk are babies under the age of 2. And then there's really no nutritional need unless you have some fat malabsorption problems or, muscle, some process going on that you would require excess fat. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot of nutritional need anymore for whole milk. But it sure is nice and rich, and my kids love it, and they think that's a treat when I buy it. All right, 1 cup of cooked rice is actually 46 grams of carbohydrate. So that's that's actually 3 carbs. So if you go out for Chinese some night, oh goodness, are you right there? I'm not necessarily saying stay at 15. everybody's different. Most meal plans for most people, for most men that have diabetes, they'd probably be told to eat 4 carbs at breakfast, 5 carbs at dinner, 5 carbs at supper, and a 1 to 2 carb snack in between. That's probably a pretty standard meal plan for most men. So if your lunch plan is 5 not 5 grams of carbohydrate, but a carb being 15 grams of carbohydrate, a cup of rice has already wiped out 3 of those carb servings of yours. So then if you have, say, a glass of milk with that and a meat with some sauce, that sauce has probably got sugar in it or carbohydrate. Yep, there's your 5 carb servings, just to be aware. So maybe what do? You have a little bit less rice and a little bit less of that topping, and you fill up on leafy greens. You fill up on salad that doesn't have any carbohydrate. That's not going to affect your blood sugar. Can of soda. Regular can of Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Oh, I missed the cereal. You're right. 3/4 of a cup of Cheerios or Wheaties. That's a serving. That's 18 grams of carbohydrate or 1 carb exchange. Pretty much. It's not that much. And we're going to look at that in a little bit. That's one of our little experiments over here. 18 grams of carbohydrate or close to 15, so close to 1 carb serving. A can of soda, 40 grams of carbohydrate. So, and now they don't even really, it's pretty rare if you stop into Quick Trip. You gotta search for the cans of soda. It's the 20-ounce bottles of soda. Well, you're not going to get any carbs out of diet soda. There is a whole plan of thought that the acidic content in diet soda is not good for your teeth, and there's a whole train of thought that drinking diet soda makes you crave than other things. But, it's all personal choice. I mean, sometimes you just want the soda, so that's a better choice. I know. There's that train of thought too. Now, science tells us that truly those studies would tell us that you'd have to ingest, 75 bottles of Coca-Cola every day for, 5 years for those levels to truly build up in your body. But there are people that really don't want to add any of that artificial stuff to their bodies. So go to water. That's your best bet. Water. All right, a medium boiled potato, 2 carbs, 30 grams of carbohydrate. So it's really, if you make a baked potato, you really only lob off the end of it, and that's going to be a carb serving. That's not to say that you only have that little bit, but I mean, if you're counting carbs and you have a big old baked potato, know that you've just probably had 3 or 4 carbs.
What do you think a serving of fries is?
Oh.
Is that like a potato, or is that like 2 potatoes? Do you have any idea, or is there any? You're probably like your standard McDonald's, value meal fry is probably about 350 calories. It's not necessarily, it's probably a potato, but a whole potato is really only about 120 to 180 calories. Okay.
It's all the fat that it's fried in. But boy, they're good. So that, there again, I'm just absolutely craving some McDonald's French fries, right? What do? So you go and you get a side salad. They have very lovely salads at most fast food restaurants now. So you get a side salad, or you get one of their, I love their Southwest. Their little parfait, yep. You get a salad and you get some fries, but you get the small fry and a large McFlurry.
Yeah, really.
But
Just dinner. You're just trying it early, right?
But many of you may have seen or read. I mean, when I was a kid in the 70s, a standard meal at McDonald's was the equivalent of now what's their basic old cheap cheeseburger and a small fry. And you got 8 ounces of soda. Now you get a burger 2 to 3 times that size, 4 to 5 times the amount of French fries, and 26 ounces of Coca-Cola. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Yes, you can. You can upgrade.
You want to ask it too. Do you want to upsize it? No.
So it's something, consumerism and marketing is huge, and it's something that we've kind of all
gotten used to, and I crave it. But sometimes tell yourself, don't be duped. They're not going to get me. Don't be duped by that marketing. I don't need that many fries. I know that many come in that box, but that's not what I need. That's not what my body needs. So try not to fall into those traps of marketing. All right, back to carbs. J, half a cup of cooked oats or oatmeal.
That should be okay.
That's a carb, 15 grams of carbohydrate. A slice of bread, also a carb. So if you're having 3 carb servings or 4 carb servings at breakfast and you have 2 slices of toast, there's 2 of your carb servings. A half of a large muffin. So you're in the bakery or you're in the gas station and you see the Otis Spunkmeyer double chocolate chip muffin. One of those is probably 4 carbs. Half of that is 2 carbs. A half of a large muffin is 30 grams of carbohydrate or 2 carbs. A half a cup of pasta, which unfortunately doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot, is 22 grams of carbohydrate, so a little more than a single carb serving.
Does that make a difference if you eat whole grains?
It won't make a difference with your carbs, but it will make a difference with your fiber, which is good for all of us, helps keep us regular, keeps cholesterol levels down, but also it will keep you feeling fuller longer. The more fiber you have in a meal, the fuller it may make you. So if you have some red sauce over just good old white pasta, you're going to feel hungry in a little while. If you use the whole grain or perhaps the whole grain white blend, it might keep you feeling fuller a little bit longer.
So it's got higher fiber, don't you? What I read, if you take your fiber grams and deduct that from your carb grams, that should give you your net carbs.
Correct.
So
And a lot of people,
So it could be less.
it could be, yep. And really, if anybody's ever done the Weight Watchers points plan, they allow for that as well. As if you have a certain Weight Watchers item, but it's got high fiber, you can deduct points from that. It's better for you. More fiber, better for you. Pick your higher fiber choices if you can. All right, a small orange, 15 grams of carbohydrate, so 1 carb serving. A half a cup of raw broccoli, 5 grams of carbohydrate. So man, I am starving. I'm gonna have some broccoli. I sold all of you on that, didn't I? But so that goes to show you, you're at a restaurant, you're at a picnic, and there's that veggie tray, and there's that brat, and there's that pie, and there's that everything. Fill that plate up with a bunch of that broccoli, a lot of fiber, hardly any carbohydrate. Fill you up, and then enjoy just a little bit of those other things.
Don't forget the dip.
Yes.
Might just screw that off.
And people ask me, should I have the dip? If it's a choice of no veggies because you can't have the dip, or you're going to have some dip, have a little bit of dip. Don't put a half a cup of dip on your plate, but if you can, a little bit of dip will make you eat that broccoli. It's better to get that vitamin A and C out of that broccoli than nothing.
You can't cover up the broccoli with the dip.
I would strongly, well.
That's what I like.
You dip your broccoli into the dip, you don't take your dip.
Or I put it on the broccoli. I don't see the broccoli when I dip it.
If your broccoli is white, you have too much dip.
Never take it off.
And finally, 4 ounces of fruit juice. 4 ounces. 4 little ounces is 15 grams of carbohydrate. Most people do not just drink 4 ounces. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too.
Is tomato juice considered fruit or is it vegetable?
It's considered a carb. I would probably usually tomato juice has an excellent level of vitamin C in it, which most fruit has, more so than vegetables. I guess once it's in juice form, it doesn't matter. The way they distinguish fruit and vegetable is how it's grown, and a tomato grows from a flowered plant. That's why you hear that tomato is actually a fruit. On the same token, watermelon's actually a vegetable. But so when you're having tomato juice, I wouldn't think of it either way, fruit or vegetable. I would think of it as a great source of vitamin C.
However, it's also really high in sodium. And so that's something you want to look for and get the low sodium. Exactly. And then have 8 glasses. So
But he likes a little vodka in his one.
Gotta feel that sharpness in it.
I've given everyone a copy of the nutrition label. Have any of you, or all of you for that matter, learned how to read nutrition labels over these past number of years as they've made the push for nutrition labels? And so you'll see at the top of a nutrition label, it says nutrition facts, serving size, half a cup, whatever this is. Servings per container tells you, calories, 155. If you're wanting to look at carbohydrate and count your carbohydrates, you'll come down to the carbohydrate line where it's white. It says total carbohydrate, 27 grams. So let's say this is cereal. The portion size was how much? Half a cup. So how many carb servings are you going to get if you have half a cup of whatever this is? 27 grams. So 15 grams of carbohydrate is considered a carb serving, pretty close to 2. Almost 2 carbs out of whatever this is. All right. So we're going to take some time. We're going to have a little interactive fun because we're going to talk about portion sizes and mostly portion sizes. And then later, if we want to, we can talk about everybody's BMI and we can calculate how many calories you need if you want to. So what I have over here, and I'm going to encourage you to get up and walk around and look at these things, is I have, first of all, let's pretend that that's milk or juice or whatever you might be pouring. But everybody go ahead, open up the container of water, and pour into the cup what you would typically have, whatever beverage you have most often. If you have milk, pour in there what about how much milk you would think you would have at breakfast or lunch. Or if you have a glass of juice, pour in what you think you would have. And then we're going to measure it and see just how much you're having. Cheerios, I don't know if anybody eats dry cereal for breakfast, but if you do, go ahead, take a bowl, pour what you think you would probably have, and then we'll compare it to what actually is one. Adults actually get a 1 cup serving, but we'll compare and we'll see what that really looks like. I'm going to encourage everybody to go ahead, take peanut butter, whether it's the reduced fat or the regular, doesn't matter, and go ahead and take a piece of bread and spread on the amount of peanut butter you would typically spread on a piece of bread or toast for yourself. Go ahead and take how many pretzels you might normally have if you were to grab a snack full of pretzels, and grab the amount of grapes you would probably have. Put everything on a plate, go back down, have a seat, and we'll compare to we'll talk about what's really a serving. I'm not judging, believe me. I think it's just fun to see, oh my gosh, that's how much peanut butter I should use, or maybe you don't use that much, or, it's just interesting to know. It's also kind of interesting to go home and take some of the things you normally eat, take your own bowls and your own plates and your own glasses, and just pour. What does 8 ounces of juice look like in my kitchen glasses? So that I know. So come, have some fun, try a few things out.
Why,
Terry, we'll leave the pan.
That's right.
with sodium, you got low fat, which you think is good.
Mm-hmm.
You got sodium, which is more than
Mm-hmm.
regular.
Not only that, but the carbohydrate is doubled. And we'll talk about that. I figured I would talk about that after everybody done the peanut butter, but that's another trap to not fall into, is falling into the reduced fat products, thinking that they're somehow always better for you, because usually if they take fat out, they're putting something else in. And in the case of peanut butter, they're going to put in more salt and more sugar.
Something that kind of confuse all that stuff in.
All right, shall we do some checking before everybody eats it all? All right, so everybody poured themselves a glass of something, or some people did. So let's see here. Here's 4 ounces, here's 8 ounces, here's 12 ounces. So you've got just about 6 to 8. Yeah. Did anybody else do a glass to compare? All right.
I think if I did 8.
You have about 12.
Oh.
So about 12 ounces. And granted, these are big, different, everybody's cups look different, so you might have to do it at home, but it's probably about 8. About 8 ounces. Probably about 4 ounces. I can tell you are on it.
Just take water.
And that's just under 4, what you've poured in there. And sometimes I've gotten myself into the habit of kind of counting a rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You kind of get a rhythm and you can count your ounces out. Same with pouring from the tap, although tap water, have as much as you want. All right, Cheerios. Here's our trusty Cheerios box with the label on the side. Serving size, 1 cup. Children would get less. So, granted, everybody's bowls at home look different, but it's not too bad. So that's 1 cup. 1 cup of cereal. That's what a cup of cereal looks like. Not too bad. But every cereal is different. You ever buy grape nuts?
Yep.
1/4 cup. Not much, although they're filling.
Yeah.
But you want to look at your label and see just what does your serving look like. And if it's something you have often and you're curious, get your measuring cup out, get your bowl that you usually use out. It's not to say that you only have 1 cup. Maybe you're going to have 4 carbs that morning. So so you count your carbs, count the label. But it's interesting to know what does a cup look like in my kitchen bowls. So, all right, peanut butter. All right, now we brought up an interesting point here because I have the regular peanut butter and I have the reduced fat peanut butter, and everybody is welcome to come take a look at the labels. But a lot of people think that if they buy lower fat items, it's better for them. Now, if heart health is your #1 thing, and there are a few items that you want to incorporate that are lower in fat, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but be careful to fall into some traps. If you look at the nutrition facts on the regular versus the reduced fat peanut butter, both have a serving size of 2 tablespoons, which I will show you before I spread this across the bread. That's what 2 tablespoons of peanut butter look like, and we'll spread that out in a minute. But each, like I said, has 190 calories. The fat in regular, 16 grams of fat. The fat in reduced fat, 12 grams. Not a tremendous difference, really. The sodium, 135 milligrams, 200 milligrams. So they've pulled some fat out, but they've put a fair amount of salt in there. And then the big difference, total carbs, 8 grams. So you have half of a carb with that much peanut butter, and I rarely even use that much peanut butter anyway in a piece of bread, or 15 grams of carb. So they've pulled out the fat, but they've doubled the sugar content. So be careful. If blood sugar control is your #1 concern and you love your peanut butter, don't use the reduced fat version, use the regular. So, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, spread that out on that bread. It should be just enough to cover the bread so that you don't really see any white through the peanut butter. So that's what 2 tablespoons of peanut butter would look like on a piece of bread. I know when I was a kid, that was thick, 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 thick. All right, I should have been using my little signs here. All right, pretzels. Craving some pretzels? So 16 pretzels is a serving. How'd everybody do?
I got 6.
Sometimes I'll make myself a snack and then my kids will come take one. I'll say, oh, don't, I have just 16 on there.
Oh, look at that.
So 16 pretzels is a serving, 110 calories. Not much. I mean, quite a bit for not a lot of pretzels. 110 calories, 23 grams of carbohydrate. So about a carb and a half. Compare that to red grapes. 20 red grapes is a serving. So 20 red grapes, 68 calories, and only 18 grams of carb. So you think about, should I have grapes or should I have pretzels? You get a lot more grapes. You get a lot more bang for your buck if you have grapes.
Doesn't matter if they're green.
No, no.
It's just grapes.
They're all roughly the same. All right, we talked about the peanut butter, talked about the Cheerios. I think we have covered all of our little food samples. All right, so would anybody like to know, as we close up today what your body mass index is or how many calories you need. You can take this home too and do it on your own. But how many of you have heard of the term body mass index? BMI. It's used to calculate or to determine whether you're considered underweight, healthy weight, overweight, or obese. I went to a seminar in May of 2012 in Vermont, a seminar on weight loss, and a large panel of presenters was there, including a man who's a scientist who was on the panel to determine BMI. And he told us outright, you know that 25? We just made that up. We just thought that sounded good. So, is it total science? No. It's a rough guide. If your BMI is 26, that's pretty darn good. 27, still pretty good. Okay, now as you're climbing up to 28 to 29, maybe that's an indication that you're overweight and that you're probably increasing your risk of heart disease and some of those factors. But just so you know, it's not hard and fast. Oh my gosh, my BMI was 25.7. It's a made-up number. It's something a bunch of people came up with. So what you do is you'll take your weight, divide it by your height. So say your weight is 150 and your height is 5'4". You're going to take 150, divide it by 64 inches, divide it by 64 inches again, and then multiply that all by 703, and that will tell you what your BMI is. So I do have one calculator on the table. If anybody wants to do it now, otherwise do it when you go home. All right. Oh, I should have cut these in half. I gave everybody a full sheet. The other one is to help you determine how many calories you need in a day. It's a very rough estimate, but what you do is you take your weight, your weight in pounds and divide it by 2.2, and that's going to give you your weight in kilograms. And then you take that weight in kilograms and you multiply it by 25, and that should give you the low end of the calories you need in the day. You multiply that same number again instead by 30, and that'll give you the high end.
Multiply or subtract?
Multiply. So say your weight is say your weight is 150.
Divided.
Okay, so if your weight is 150, you divide that by 2.2, you get 68 kilograms. You take 68 times 25, and that gives you 1,704. So that's the low end. Somebody who weighs 150 pounds, the low end of their calorie needs is 1,700. You take that same 68 and you multiply it by 30 instead, there's 2,040 calories, or roughly 2,000 calories. So a person who weighs 150 pounds and is comfortable weighing 150 pounds and wants to weigh 150 pounds should eat about 1,700 to 2,000 calories a day. There are other factors involved there that I just won't boggle your minds with or overwhelm you with, but as your activity level increases, that number can increase. If you weigh that amount, but you'd prefer to weigh less, what you can do is decrease your calorie amount by 500 calories a day. 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. So if you decrease your calories by 500 calories a day over the course of a week or 7 days times that 500 calories a day, you should lose a pound a week. Or you could meet it in the middle. Increase your exercise a little bit, decrease your calories a little bit, and still lose that pound a week. So, any questions about that? I kind of went through that quickly.
I did that with the calculator. How about 170?
So 170 divided by 2.2 is 77. So you weigh 77 kilograms.
77.
Yep. So times 25 is 1931, or roughly 1900.
1940 rounded off, right?
You can round it off, sure. Always trying to find the loophole, aren't you?
Well, you said 1900, don't worry.
And then times 30 is 2318, or roughly 2,300 calories. So 17
170.
divided by 2.2 is the 77 kilograms, times the 25 is 1900, and times 30 is 2,300. So your calorie level,
Oh, between 1923.
1,900 to 2,300 calories a day.
Body mass, you said, yeah, that's 170. By
170 divided by, how tall are you?
5'6".
66 equals, divided by 66 equals, times 703 equals. So there's your body mass index.
37.
Divided by 66 again, and then times the 703. And that gives you your BMI.
That was your height in inches. Oh.
Weight divided by height divided by
So
height
if
times
you're
703.
Considered pre-diabetic, but should you go to this diet and begin?
If you're considered if you're
would that-
considered diabetic, any level of weight loss will help increase your insulin's ability to work. So if you even have a 10% weight loss, or even increasing your exercise level a little bit, but not even changing the way you eat, but just getting out and walk, you know, if you're right now your activity level is nothing, and you say, okay, I'm going to start walking 10 minutes a night, 5 days a week, I guarantee you will see improvement in your blood sugar levels just from the increased activity level. You'll probably, unless the increased activity level increases your appetite and then you eat more, you also should see some weight loss, which again will help you out. There's something called Metabolic Syndrome or Syndrome X, and that's prediabetes, and there are a number of markers for that. But typically, you know, high blood pressure, excess weight, all of those things will factor in and start to make your insulin less effective. And so any bit of weight loss, be it through changing your diet or increasing your activity, or ideally doing both, should help that. Which is why, like you watch The Biggest Loser, for example, and somebody's got diabetes, got high blood pressure, they're on all these meds, and then they lose that weight. You'll see that happen time and time again, that somebody comes off their meds or is able to use less meds because just getting that weight in check or just even bringing it down helps your body all right itself, if you will. So our bodies are pretty amazing things. They know what they need to do, and they're trying their best to do it. It's just that there are a lot of influences out there that tempt us and lead us to developing bodies that are really fighting to do what they're supposed to and just can't. So absolutely any bit of weight loss or activity would certainly help that. Any other questions? Well, I hope I taught you one new exciting thing, or at least now you know how to count grapes. And you're welcome for lunch or a pre-lunch snack. All right.
Is there something you would recommend for like a little bar of something like to eat, to have in your purse, so that if you just miss your regular
Sure.
times and you feel yourself sort of fading away?
Yep.
What do you recommend for that? I can't seem to find anything that would be.
More. I just have the Nature Valley dry granola bars. You know, the ones that come in the packet too, and the oats and honey, and the. Granted, there's there's really not a lot of protein in there, and it'd be better to find one with protein. But a lot of those protein bars and those energy bars are just a glorified candy bar.
Right.
So have I found one that I really, really, truly could promote as they are? They're like a squirrel attacked your front seat. Read labels and find one whose main ingredient is not sugar. Ideally find one with 6 grams of sugar or less. 10 grams of protein or more would be great. And one that's not coated in chocolate, that would be your best bet. But
I often bring like a quarter cup of walnuts and just tuck it in my purse.
yeah, walnuts, almonds, throw in a little bit of
Emergency kit.
yeah, exactly. Throw in a little bit of raisins if you like the chewy and the crunchy together. But that's a great choice, is just to have a little handful of that. They're not as practical to keep in your purse, but something with crunch, some sugar snap peas or some baby carrots or something that, you know, those are pretty easy to turn to for a snack as well. Even string cheese. really doesn't have to be refrigerated. It's in those zip packs. You could throw a string cheese in your purse and grab one of those as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any value to the olive oil mayonnaise, or is it just making it higher and everything?
I've not even researched the olive oil mayonnaises yet. I know they're relatively new. I highly doubt there's any grand overall benefit to them, because I can't imagine if you ingested the amount of olive oil that was good for your heart, you'd be eating a lot of mayonnaise. So is it probably better than the other standard one? Maybe, but I doubt the amount of it that we would use is going to be of any grand benefit.
How about the pills that doctor prescribes, I mean, like Januvia? And when you see it advertised on TV, if you're taking Januvia, please call our law office. I know this is probably a hard question for you, but
This is your question.
I'll say that one's probably beyond my scope.
If the physician prescribes it, you'd have to talk to him, whether
And
or
I
not to
did.
discontinue it or not, and the risk.
I was
and
on that for
benefits.
2 years. And when I first went on it, I got so sick. Of course, the doctor's on vacation, and I says, "Oh, that stuff is terrible." And went to the hospital, and these nurses were trying every test you could think of on me, and I hung on to it for 2 years, and finally I told the doctor, I just can't take these anymore. And I says, would it be better if I just didn't take anything? And he says, well, maybe we can go back to the drug you were on before, which
Sure.
was metformin. And, I've been getting along with that. Well, I was just back to the doctor last Monday for a regular physical and all that kind of stuff. And now he takes me off of metformin, and I'm on like nothing. I mean, unless there's something.
But he's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the
yeah.
answer there.
So,
Perhaps you're not going to need that med anymore.
well, I don't know. It just,
You didn't get to see the attorney, huh?
what?
You didn't get to see the attorney.
He didn't tell me which one, yeah. I mean, it's like, everybody scares the dickens out of a person when you look watching TV and they say, well, if you're taking this here, you should
Sure.
see us. It's,
Well, always know it's your right to refuse a medication. If you're on a medication, I would strongly advise you against just stopping it cold turkey without at least seeking medical consult. But it's your
I mean,
right
do they
as a
affect some people and not other people?
I'm
or-
sure.
Yeah.
Of course, it's just like side effects may include, and some people are going to have a side effect, and some people are going to see nothing whatsoever. I'm sure everyone's different. Absolutely.
How important is it to have like regular meals, set times?
Honestly, I wouldn't even aim for set times, because what I would aim for is, do I feel hungry? Now, for a lot of us, we have lost that ability a long time ago. I kind of just eat because it feels like it's probably getting close there. But I would try to, ideally get back in touch with, am I truly hungry? Let me have a glass of water. Yeah, I still am hungry. Now I should eat. But would I stick with a set meal time? No. Would I, however, try to encourage you to eat 5 or 6 small meals a day to just keep your blood sugar regular? Yes. Does it have to be setting a watch and, oh, it's 10 o'clock now, I better eat my grapes, even though you don't feel hungry whatsoever? No. But I would try to, it is a much healthier way to eat, is to eat a small breakfast, a little bit of a mid-morning snack, a light lunch, a mid-afternoon snack, an evening meal, a little after, an evening snack. It's better for our blood sugar levels to keep that kind of steady influx of carbs coming in.
I know, like for the meals, it should be, you got your proteins and your carbs and your, fat. But when you have a snack, do you follow that, but just smaller portions, or
If you can, I mean, it'll benefit your blood sugars and it'll benefit your hunger level if you can incorporate a little bit of everything. So if you're going to have some crackers, throw a little bit of peanut butter. Instead of having 20 crackers, have 10 crackers or 7 crackers and a little bit of peanut butter, because that way you're getting the protein and the fat that's going to keep you satisfied longer.
Cheese stick or something like that.
Exactly.
What about not eating, I mean, like, at lunchtime, sometimes I'll have a nice lunch, but then when it comes time in the afternoon, I'm not really hungry.
You're just not hungry.
So, how about skipping meals?
Well, and how, again, do you do blood sugar checks?
Yes, at nighttime.
Okay, and if your blood sugars aren't running extremely low, I probably wouldn't so much worry about it. I mean, even in our nursing home setting, we really only do 3 meals a day and an evening snack.
That's pretty much all I usually do.
Right. But if you have the option to eat 5 or 6 small meals a day, you will keep your blood sugar level more throughout the day and not see spikes. So, the obvious answer there would be, well, try eating an even smaller lunch and see how you feel. Or if you feel like, well, I ate till I was satisfied, it's 3 o'clock and I'm still not hungry, go with your body.
I can't cut back food too much more.
Okay, yeah, and you don't look like you should. So, I mean, I would say go with, if your blood sugars have been fine, I wouldn't worry about that. If you're bottoming out, yeah, then you might need to eat a little bit of something. But if that's not the case, go with what your hunger tells you.
What about eating something and then going working, or not eating something and going work out? I get up early enough and then I don't wanna eat because I wanna go and work out, but I force myself to eat something and I'm not hungry.
Sure. If you really aren't hungry but you feel like you should get a little something in you, just have a little bit of milk or chocolate milk. Just drink a little something. It could cause stomach upset, so you might want to watch for that. But a lot of times I'll get up and I'll go for a run early in the morning, and it's just too early to eat a piece of toast. So I at least have a little orange juice, or even if it's just 2 bites of banana. Banana is a great pre-exercise snack. You wouldn't even have to eat a ton of it, but it'll give you a little carbohydrate to sustain you and just a little bit. I mean, ideally, or I shouldn't say ideally, when you exercise, really your body is utilizing what you ate hours beforehand. So if you're needing to fuel a workout, what you ate the night before is fueling that workout. The concern I would have is that your blood sugars are going to plummet because you worked out without anything in you. So are you checking blood sugars after you exercise?
No,
No.
I usually do it before.
Okay. I mean, I'd be curious to know what they are after. If you've not eaten anything and then you exercise, I'd be curious. How do you feel afterward? Do you feel any signs of hypoglycemia? Do you feel dizzy or weak or nauseous, or do you feel?
Well, I haven't been watching that because I've been doing something, eating cheese or something before.
But you're kind of forcing yourself
Yeah.
to.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know that anybody would advise you to do this. I hate for you to play with things, but I mean, do a little bit of light exercise and then do a post-exercise blood sugar check and just see what's happening here. If I don't eat anything and I exercise a little bit, what's happening to my blood sugar? But if it's going okay, if you're okay with that, just forcing myself to eat a little bit, continue doing that. I mean, that way you avoid any big drop in your blood sugar that way.
Then I have another question too. As you get older, is your blood sugar supposed to be higher in the morning before you eat, as soon as you get up?
No,
Or should-
ideally it's still in those same old normal levels, but it may get harder to control. And your everything changes as we age. Our metabolism slows down. We develop less, our muscles start to, I don't want to say waste away, that sounds bad, but we lose muscle mass. You may literally stay the same weight between the time you're 45 and 85, but really you've lost muscle and gained fat. So where was I going with that answer? Other than no, there's just really one ideal, the blood sugar ranges don't change with age. Some labs do change, it's okay to have you can expect probably a lower albumin level and you can expect a lower hemoglobin level, and there are some labs that change as you age, but blood sugar, no.
Is there a difference between eating white bread and whole grain breads or something like that.
Kind of the same thing we talked about with the pasta is you're probably going to get the same level of calories, but you're going to get more fiber from the whole grain, and it's going to be more heart healthy. So when you pick out a bread, you want to look at the ingredient list, and if the first ingredient is enriched white flour, you want to try to stay away from it and pick something that's got whole wheat flour as the main ingredient. But sometimes that white bread just is pretty good stuff. But ideally you go with something that's got whole wheat flour as the first ingredient. Sometimes, I mean, you'll see most store brands will have their white bread and their brown bread, and their brown bread is really just dyed white bread. If you were to look at the label, it still has enriched white flour as its main first ingredient. So again, that goes back to the more fiber, keeps you fuller longer, and it's better for your heart and better for your cholesterol levels.
So I think you're gonna end up taking all this grocery shopping with you one day.
Sure, let's go.
We're gonna meet at Piggly Wiggly or Pick and Save. We're gonna go shopping.
Well, and I don't know if any of you have heard this before, but when you grocery shop, they say you should try to stick to the outside. That's where all your fresh produce is. That's where all your meats are. That's where, your frozen vegetables, and you want to try to not get a whole lot from the interior, the white pastas, the white breads, the chips, there are a lot of, that's where the pitfalls are, but. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
But what do y'all mean?